Many people from Bangladesh and other countries migrate for work in Malaysia. Hassan was one of those people. But after 2 years, he returned home without any savings. What happened? Hassan simply owed too much money from recruitment fees. It cost a lot to get there, so he'd borrowed money. He'd thought he could pay it off while working, a little each month. But the salary he received was lower than what he expected. So there was nothing left to save. Hassan felt trapped by his debt. If you take on large amounts of debts to work abroad, you face similar risks of debt bondage, where you may be unable to leave your job because you have to pay back the debt, even if there are bad conditions or pay. But by looking closer at what happened to Hassan, we can see the risks to avoid and predict how much money you can really save by working in Malaysia. Hassan hadn't been able to find decent work in his village, but his cousin tells him he knows someone who can help him get a factory job in Malaysia. The cousin introduces him to a recruitment agent. The agent offers a job that could pay 38,000 taka a month. The visa and the agent fee would be costly, 250,000 taka, but Hassan could get a loan from a relative and pay it back while working with wages left over for savings. Hassan agreed, thinking he knew all the costs, the visa and the agent fee. But then, one by one, he finds out about the other fees that the agent hadn't told him about. First, he needs a medical exam. Then it turns out he needs a training certification. He pays for both. Then he has to pay for his flight and his passport. These costs add up to an additional 150,000 taka. So Hassan has to get more loans. Altogether, he ends up borrowing 400,000 taka. To avoid borrowing more than you can repay, find out all the costs and how much you will be paid before you decide to migrate overseas. Make sure you get an employment contract. Look closely at the costs and who will be paying for them, you or your employer. Make sure the contract includes all recruitment costs, like tests, training, and travel. Some employers do pay all these costs, but it must be in the contract. Your contract should show any costs covered by the employer and any that you have to pay, and whether the employer will pay costs up front or if they will reimburse later. The other reason why Hassan couldn't save was that his loan had a high interest rate, 25%. That means he'll pay back much more than he borrowed. Using an online loan repayment calculator, he'd have to pay 21,350 taka each month, more than half his monthly salary. The other half of his salary is only enough for his living costs, leaving nothing left over. There are recruiters who charge zero recruitment fees, because the employer pays for all the costs of recruitment. Ask your recruiter and look in your employment contract to be sure which recruitment costs are paid by your employer. Finally, if you end up paying high recruitment fees, you can request that your employer reimburse the costs. If you need help seeking reimbursement, reach out to a migrant worker organization or the Bangladesh Embassy's Labor Welfare Wing. You can safely store your recruitment receipts and contracts in SafeStep's migration checklist, and use the budget calculator to calculate the costs of migration. If you have any other questions, you can find out more in the SafeStep Help Center.